Council Workshop Meeting, May 5th, 2025, 6 p.m. Baer.
Here.
Briggs.
Here.
Coulter.
Here.
Heidrich.
Here.
Holtmeyer.
Here.
Petke.
Here.
Pepsel.
Here.
Solentrop. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the committee members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the meeting dated April 7th, 2025? Baer.
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Petke.
Yes.
Pepsel.
Yes.
Solentrop.
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Need a motion?
Second.
Who had the first?
Bear.
Bear, and then Patke second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Presentations 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Good evening, Ward. I have Andy Grice on the Microsoft Teams meeting, so I will turn it over to him so he can present the 2024 financial statements for you.
All right, thanks, Tammy. Have a PowerPoint presentation just to highlight our audit report. So I'm sharing that now. Just wanted to confirm, is that coming through okay?
Coming through good. Thanks, Andy.
All right, perfect. Thank
Is
you.
the word.
Well, just wanted to start by going over our independent auditor's report. So the city's annual comprehensive financial report includes our independent auditor's report on the city's financial statements. And this report talks about what our role is as your auditor, as well as the role of management, in that the annual comprehensive financial report, or ACFR, is management's responsibility, and it's our role as your auditor to come in and test, examine, look at the underlying documentation to support the numbers and disclosures in your financial statements, and ultimately provide an opinion as to whether we believe the financial statements to be fairly presented in all material respects. Happy to report that we are providing a clean or an unmodified opinion, which is the best that we can give as your auditor. In addition to the opinion that we provide on the city's financial statements, we have other reporting that has been provided here as well, one being our report on government auditing standards. This report talks about our consideration of internal control over financial reporting, and we are required to provide in writing any deficiencies in internal control that rise to either a significant deficiency or a material weakness level, and there were no findings to report at those levels here for 2024. Also, no compliance related matters to note in that report. The last piece of reporting is a report on the OMB uniform guidance. This is triggered whenever the city expends more than $750,000 or more in federal awards, which the city did here for 2024. There were two major federal programs that were selected for testing this year. Those programs received a clean, unmodified opinion on compliance with the major federal program requirements, and there were no internal control matters to report related to those programs. So a clean report when it comes to the federal single audit. The last piece of reporting that we have is our communications letter. That includes all required communication in accordance with audit standards, but also includes some emerging issues and a financial analysis that includes some trend data that we'd like to highlight here for you tonight. It starts by taking a look at the city's general fund here over the last 5 years and comparing specifically 2023 to 2024. There was about a 3% increase in total fund balance, an increase up to just over $15 million at the end of the year. After considering other financing sources and uses as well, we did see again that increase in total overall fund balance. And the unassigned portion of fund balance decreased from $4.3 million down to about $3.6 million. And the assigned fund balance increased from $731,000 to about $1.8 million for resources set aside for the subsequent year's budget. That unassigned portion of fund balance represents about 24%, or about 2 months, just over 2 months of expenditures based on 2024 levels. That level of fund balance is in compliance with the city's fund balance policy. The next chart highlights the components of general fund revenues comparing 2023 to 2024. Overall, the allocation has remained fairly consistent between the 2 years, with the majority of general fund revenues coming through taxes at 77%. There was one shift in intergovernmental revenue that was at 4% last year and at 6% here for 2024 with the spending of ARPA dollars. But again, other categories remaining fairly consistent. Drilling down a bit further and also giving a 5-year history of general fund revenues, overall did see about a 3% increase in general fund revenues, or about $524,000. The most significant increases occurred in taxes, as well as intergovernmental revenues. Taxes increased $285,000 with an increase in sales activity, and intergovernmental revenue increased $275,000 again with the utilization of the ARPA money here in 2024. Other categories were fairly consistent with the prior year. The next chart highlights general fund expenditures and how those are allocated by function between the 2 years. Most categories remain fairly consistent, did have some shifts in some of the categories here, and we'll see that here explained a bit further here on the next slide. Again, looking at the 5-year history here of general fund expenditures, and again focusing on comparing 2023 and 2024, and there was an increase of about $1.8 million here in 2024, with the majority of that occurring in the capital outlay category. That area increased about $1.1 million with an increase in maintenance repairs, vehicle acquisitions, and other capital projects. Culture and recreation also increased with an increase in park projects, but those are the main drivers on the increase in expenditures here for 2024. From there, we get into the city's enterprise funds. These present a bit differently in that these are full accrual funds. So we see the full cost of providing these services to the city's residents. So we see things like depreciation expense in these funds. And again, we take a look at operating income just to see and evaluate whether charges for services or the user charges established for these services are sufficient to cover the cost of providing those services. The water fund did generate a surplus this year of $161,000. And we also provide that metric excluding depreciation, since depreciation is a non-cash operating expense. This gives a little bit better insight in terms of cash flow in this fund, and income without depreciation was a positive $721,000. At the end of the year, the reserve or the equity position that we monitor to evaluate financial health in these funds is the unrestricted net position. Unrestricted net position in the water fund improved from a negative $721,000 back in 2023 to a positive $47,000 here in 2024. The next chart highlights the sewer fund over the last 5 years. Here in 2024, there was an increase in operating income, and that was driven by an increase in total revenue with an increase in rates. Revenue increased from $3 million to about just over $4.4 million here for 2024, and with similar total expenses did generate an operating income of $1.1 million. That improved the unrestricted net position in this fund from a negative $617,000 to a positive $335,000 at the end of the year. The last enterprise fund to highlight here as it relates to 2024 is the sewer fund. The solid waste fund. This fund has had operating deficits over the last 4 years, with the most significant being back in 2022, but again, exceeding $1 million here in 2024, with total expenses exceeding total revenues. And if we take a look at the unrestricted net position in this fund, it started the year at a negative $3.2 million and ended the year at a negative $4.3 million. So an increase of just over $1 million in terms of the unrestricted net position in this fund. And again, that is negative, and that is mainly driven by the landfill care liability in that fund of about $7.4 million. So again, another fund to evaluate just to ensure those user charges are sufficient to cover the related costs of providing those services. And again, just wanted to continue to recommend that City Council continue to evaluate whether those user charges are sufficient. That's the last chart that we have. to again highlight the audit results here for the year ended September 30th, 2024. Next, I'd just like to thank Tammy and everyone at City Hall for their assistance throughout the audit process this year. And next, just like to open it up for any questions.
Doesn't sound like we have any questions at all. Thank you.
The solid waste fund, I guess, I'll go back to that, the
Yeah.
landfill question there. Just, are we covering that? We're subsidizing that.
We're subsidizing that.
And that's at 1 million, just over $1 million a year.
You're gonna, but he's got the liability of the closure and post-closure built into those numbers. But you gotta realize, though, that that's something that our solid waste committee is taking a look at, the future, when we get towards the end of this cell, what do we really wanna go ahead and do? And I will tell you that that's the biggest concern. We have met with several waste haulers when we were going over the rates before and leading up to the request for proposals for trash collection, to see if there was interest in partnerships, possibly with opening up either A, another cell, or B, utilizing the 10 acres that we currently own out there to go ahead and try to do a transfer station. But the concerns, and we can get into this in a workshop, I don't want to delay too much with the audit report, but is that we don't generate enough waste out there for a lot of these haulers to consider running. They're talking, we heard it from more than 3 or 4 of them during this process, that we need to be doing 3 to 4 times volume for them to go ahead and make money, as opposed to what we currently bring in there. So that is a big decision for the city to go ahead. In the meantime, we've kept the rates where they're at. We've lost one of our major haulers. I mean, but that's not necessarily a bad thing that's reflected, I guess, in these numbers. It's just the fact of what's the life of that landfill. If that hauler is not coming in, you're extending the life of the landfill. So it's a balance, really, of what you want to go ahead and do. But I will tell you that in the future, right now, it doesn't look very good for us to go ahead and consider keep operating the landfill or even the transfer station, as far as that goes. And I think what we saw, one of the things that we learned over this last year, was the second time we've gone out for rates. And, for years, the idea was, well, keep the landfill in operation. That helps with keeping our rates low for our customers. And we found out that that's not necessarily the case. We're getting some very competitive rates without having to go ahead and rely upon having a landfill to own and operate. But that's another discussion at another time. Charles and I will keep meeting with the committee and Andrea and looking at those options, but we'll be bringing some options to you in the future. It's good to see, though, the other funds that we have taken steps towards, the sewer, which was drastically needed to go ahead and update those rates. You can see that direct reflection in this report, as well as the water. And the water was how many years ago? 18, 19? 3 years ago? Okay, I thought it was longer than that, but maybe we started talking about it then. But anyway. Yeah. But anyway, you can see that reflection, though, in his report for those. We've caught up with those, but the biggest issue that we're going to have to tackle eventually is solid waste.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
me.
Andy.
Go ahead.
Report of department heads, Economic Development Department, First Amendment to Lease Agreement, Pre-Coat Metals.
Good evening, council members. So in 2023, the city issued $68 million in Chapter 100 industrial revenue bonds for the construction of AZZ Precoat Metals out on the Oldenburg Industrial Park. Well, thank you very much to all of you who were able to attend their ribbon cutting ceremony today. So obviously that marks the completion of the project, and so the next phase of the Chapter 100 tax abatement is for them to transfer over ownership of the facility and equipment over to the city of Washington. And therefore, basically, what is on your agenda for tonight's council meeting is an ordinance approving an amendment to the lease agreement between the city and AZZ Precoat Metals, which all it does is simply it just sets some deadlines that AZZ Precoat has to abide by in regards to providing any lien waivers that they may have or any purchase orders of the equipment that they have. AZT Precoat has done all of that, and so we are ready to move forward with the transferring of the ownership of the property.
And just a question real quick for Mark. The previous one, the reason why we have to do the amendment is because we had earlier dates to transfer this over. Is that the reason?
You had, I think the dates were July 1, but
Okay.
it wasn't specific as to the equipment, as I recall.
Okay.
Personal property and equipment.
Okay.
Any questions?
We're just asking to go ahead and move this on to council to,
Make a motion.
Second. Motion by Holtmeyer, second by Briggs, to move it on to council. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Engineering Department Mitigation Credit Purchase Agreement, Fox Crest Box Culvert.
For the next one, but, good evening, council. For the mitigation credits here, this is for, the Fox Crest Culvert Project. So back in March, you all approved the value engineering, change order to change from a bridge to a double box culvert down there, for Fox Crest from Rabbit Trail to North Crest. As part of that is, the need for a permit through the Corps of Engineers and paying for mitigation credits. So there was a savings by switching to the culvert of about $150,000, but one of the conditions was the city paying for all of the stream mitigation credits. We estimate about $25,000. When we put that together, actually it's gonna cost us around $36,000 for the stream credits. So you'll see about $11,000 less savings than we had projected, but still $140,000 in savings roughly by switching. So this is just an ordinance to approve paying the stream mitigation credits for that project.
is this the same entity, do you remember? I think it's the same
It
one
is.
that we
It is
did
the
for
same
the
one. So
Oldenburg
they
Industrial
only
Park.
give you a couple banks that are in your area.
Gotcha.
I checked with both, and the other one didn't have any credits available at this time. So this is really our only option.
No questions or discussion? Take a motion to send it on.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Patke, second by Briggs to send it on. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Front Street H Tower Parking Reconfiguration.
All right, good evening. Yeah, so the H Tower parking lot down there, we had talked about this a couple months back when sewer was doing their repair down there by the storm drain that you can see in the bottom right corner, about could we do something to reconfigure the parking lot, try and get some more parking spots down there, what could be done. So in the meantime, street department went in, put the sidewalk that was never there, to continue the sidewalk on. So currently, this is kind of the layout that you see minus, that's not how the ADA parking is up there in the top left corner, but that's what it's gonna look like in the future when Amtrak does their upgrades to the loading dock and everything there. So, so currently we have 7 parking spots, including that ADA parking spot there. So then, you all had asked about if we did some sort of angled parking down there, how many spots we did. We can get about 10 spots, again, including that ADA spot down there. Require the sidewalk with about a 3-foot wall with fence on top, straight down, and then be able to have that pull-through lane there. So that's what you can get with that. One other option that staff is recommending is pushing everything back and creating on-street parallel parking, so continuing what you have to the east, west, and then you can create a green space where we have all the parking now. So Parks has been looking at this, I guess it's been in their master plan for some time now down there, so they've talked about putting pavilions and benches and and different things down there. You'd still have the access on the west side for the ADA parking to get to Amtrak station, but then the rest of it would be on street. That would result in 1 additional parking spot, so you'd have 8 parking spots there. So you could get more with the angled, but we're talking about just a couple parking spots here, so it's kind of what's important.
How much does
what's
it
not.
leave between the parking lot to the sidewalk on the south side?
What was that question?
How much does that leave on the street from the parking lot that you're proposing to the sidewalk across the street?
How much does that
The
leave?
parking spots, so how wide is the street gonna be? Am I right? Yeah.
Why does it, so the street width isn't gonna change.
I think those days.
You're gonna bump out and add that parallel parking. So if you go
You're
back.
gonna
to
move
what-
into the place where the H tower used to be. Yeah.
So if you can kind of see,
So the sidewalk we just put in, we
you're,
keep.
you're gonna continue
That was
this area
temporary,
right here.
built that way anyway.
That'll be your parallel right there, and you'll bump the sidewalk even further back. And then your,
That's what we're doing the east side of it anyway, right? Parking lot, the spots east of what's there now.
Yeah.
right,
that's
this is
exactly like what you have
currently
to
have
the
right now.
east.
So you're just continuing that, yep, through there.
Bump in the same amount,
Yep, exactly, yep.
bump north, if you will.
And then you'd have the retaining wall, here, it'd be about a 2.5 foot retaining wall.
So that'll
with
stay
the fence.
consistent all the way down to where the railroad entrance?
Yeah,
where you cross.
exactly, yep.
Okay.
And then you'd have your new, ADA crossing right here, bump out. So you could cross, get down to the little park down there and provide 1 additional parking spot and a new kind of lookout area to the riverfront there. So I think Parks was talking about it, calling it like Heritage Park East, where you have the west on the other side of the Amtrak, so.
On the angled parking, was there enough room? I mean, that wouldn't be limited to certain types of vehicles, would it?
No, that's
Considering there's
full.
a 3-foot wall behind it, would you be able to?
And there's about 15 feet drive-through there that you'd be able to fit, and then, yeah, those are full spots, so.
Myself, I like the 8 spots.
Spots.
The 8.
With the green
Yep.
space.
Because here, somebody's gonna pull in here, somebody's gonna think they're better than somebody else, they're gonna pull in the next one too. Or they're gonna have an extra long truck, and they're gonna try to get back out of there, and it's gonna cause trouble, I believe, more that way than.
Would be a little tight down, probably here,
Yeah.
backing out and what this situation looks like, but.
Well, the option to help a little green space down there and then be consistent with the other sidewalk.
Yeah, it
and
just makes it
consistent
less
from the east.
confusing,
Yeah,
which
I
is
agree
all
too. It means
copacetic.
Kind of make it all, yeah. Oh, that's a big word, Mark.
Yeah. What's that, that big word?
Copacetic.
Yeah, every now and then I pull one out.
And Charles, the retaining wall
Duly
and
noted.
fence is not an issue with railroad.
No, we've talked to them, they didn't have any concerns with us doing that.
Put that in the notes.
Yeah,
And
copacetic.
we would include this into the Front Street project, so that's why I'm kind of coming to you now, so we can incorporate that in the plans, that way it can all be done at one time, whatever we decide here.
I think that's a winner right there.
What determines the 1 ADA spot? Does it make sense to have 2? And I'm just asking. I don't.
Yeah, so we're kind of basing that on Amtrak and their addition and what they need, as far as like occupancy for the building and all that, so. Typically, it's however many parking spots you have down here, which I think it's, after 11, you need a second ADA parking spot, so, since we're only
Help
at
me
10.
out. There might be 1 or 2 across the street too.
There is.
There are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
then
we'd
you've
still
got-
have all the parking
Yeah, you
across the
still got
street.
accessibility there.
Yeah, it doesn't change.
Okay.
Is cost an issue going with the green space? Do you
Yeah,
know
this
what it-
one is about $10,000 more to do this. But again, you're getting the, Park sees it as a benefit and,
Does it make a difference MS4 wise, Charles?
Right.
yeah, I mean, obviously, the less pavement you have and we have some stormwater, kind of issues down there. I don't know if you can tell in the picture, I mean, a lot of washout down that way. So as part of the Front Street project, we are doing, improvements. I don't have it on here, but you have the existing storm drain in this location. We are proposing to put another one here that's gonna tie back into the storm in front of the depot.
So
to
with the
kinda help.
retaining wall, how much we fill that up?
Like I said, the retaining wall, here, you'd slope this down at about 5%, and this wall would be 2.5 feet, so. On the back of the sidewalk, you'd be at 3.5 feet of fill.
I think we may write a letter to MS4 and let them know that we just chose a green space as opposed to a blacktop, and that'll help us out in the long run.
I'll put that in this. report
Charles
that I have to
documents
turn
it
in
all.
This month, so.
Further discussion, guys, before we move on?
We're just looking at, tonight it was discussion because these guys are gonna be getting ready to go ahead and include this then in the improvements plans for Front Street.
Yeah, so then I'd be coming back with you for probably a supplemental agreement to have the engineers include this scope into the project as well, but.
I talked to Wayne a little bit about it earlier at the ribbon cutting, and I was totally mistaken on how this was gonna look. I thought we were still gonna be down lower, and
Oh.
I didn't understand what we were doing. I thought it was gonna be kind of chopped up, but I get it now. Visuals help.
They do.
And if there's an option for a second ADA parking spot, I mean, why wouldn't we put one there if there's room for that? Or is that just, that's the only way that it swing in to make that?
No, I think if you turned it, I mean, you could probably get a second one down there if that was something we wanted to get.
I mean, if the space enables it, I guess that would make sense to do
By
that.
the building itself?
Yeah,
Or the blue is right there, if you would
Yeah.
put two.
top left-hand corner.
If it's an
Yeah.
option.
You're saying, you could probably turn it this way
Yeah.
and put your,
Mm-hmm.
you know, your, hatched out area in the middle and still
There's
fit
plenty of
another
room
one,
to turn around there.
turn around and back
Yep.
out, so. We could look at that if that helps try and maximize parking, okay. We'll do that as well,
If we're gonna put hard surface, we might as well be able to park on it.
right?
Alternative. Very good.
Riverfront slope repair.
So then the other thing down at the riverfront, the slope repairs on the bank, where we've had failures. So this goes back to the boat club sloughing that we had last summer, after the work that they did there by adding some rock. And then that same event, we had even more failure, in the cracks there up at the top by the roadway, starting to fall off. Streets has gone in and kind of repaired that a little, but again, earlier this year, we saw that sliding some more, as well as this area here closer to the parking lot that really sheared off and fell in. So, I've gone to the Corps, and we already had a permit in this area, we got a permit in this area, and we're now permitted in this area to do work. That hinges on getting in there when the water is low, that we can actually get in there. We're not disrupting the habitat for the, one of the endangered fish that's down there.
Pallid
So-
sturgeon.
Pallid sturgeon, there
Yes,
you go.
thank you. So that's the one condition, we'll have to wait till, conditions are right. I don't know when that'll be, that the river will be back down to be able to do that work. Street department said they can get in there and do these repairs, take them about a week per location, to do that. Go in there, kind of key in a good spot for that large riprap to go in there and just build it up as we go. So we're looking at location one, about $84,000 worth of rental equipment and rock and material. Location two, $40,000. Location three, $76,000, for a total of around $200,000. Again, if street department does that work, about a week per location. So
Location one is the first priority, right, Charles?
this location one would be top. Location two, the next. Location three.
So they're in that order.
Charles, how's that undercut looking right at the launch pad?
As far as how
Cause that
Just getting
gets
eroded
undercut
away
quite
now?
a bit. It gets undercut quite a bit. I didn't know why we were down there doing it, if we wanted to look at that again as well.
Yeah, we can take a look at, doing a little bit more while we're in there. I mean, they were gonna cut it back, haul some material out, and really build this up is what the plan is, so.
Your permit had a March date, I assume, expiration?
March
They
26th.
expire, yeah, March 26th.
But you said you have a permit for 3, but you won't do anything until the river level is low for any one of those. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So it's not like we can do 3 and wait for the river to go down to do 1. That's not the option. It's when it's down, we start on 1.
That's the goal.
I got you, okay.
If you wanted to move that. What you would have to do is go ahead and do a budget amendment out of your stormwater fund to go ahead and pay for these improvements. And so if we did that, then what you're gonna do, like I said, we look at that as one-time money. Where are you gonna get, is this gonna be a good fix for that? That's what we've discussed, to make sure that it's not something that's a year from now, we get high water event and all of a sudden, I don't think this is beyond what the boat club, and I know when Dwayne was on the council trying to go ahead and get done down there, this is because they were relying upon whatever free rock they could get from a contractor, KJU in town.
So we talking about shot rock for the repair and then something to finish the top off with?
We're talking about large,
Just large.
riprap, 1 to 2 foot riprap. It's kind of what we're looking at.
And no finish on top?
No,
Not right now, no.
just to stabilize the bank. There's, the only thing that we're trying to stabilize from a city standpoint, just to make sure it was very clear, is the roadway that's down there and, the roadway that's adjacent to the trail. I will tell you, I know that if Dwayne was here, his immediacy that he had a month or two ago when we discussed it was probably due to the anchors that the dock owners down there have sitting up there on the top of the banks. That's what's probably most in jeopardy, but I will tell you, that is not city-owned. It's not a city asset. It's not a concern about our city infrastructure. But where this is at, we have talked about the concern of that sloughing off and getting worse and eating into the roadway there next to the trail. So we're not there to try to go ahead and make sure that they're, because those are privately owned. We don't own those, even though we've never worked out an agreement for them to be there. They're there, but they're not owned by the city, and that's not what we're trying to protect.
While we're down there, and we got a track hole down there or what have you, can we check out the silt too? At one time, there was a lot of silt coming down. Can we clean that up too?
I don't,
Where's that silt?
Where it filters in from the streets for dumps out down there?
Where the storm pipes are outfalling there?
Yep.
it's beyond probably what
Yeah,
we've got. That would be
It's outside
beyond
of the
this.
permitted scope.
Just asking,
Yeah.
That was a problem at one time too down there.
Obviously, we know there's a problem down there, and all three of these are bad spots. But we don't want to happen what's happening on 0100 with the continuous. Right. Franklin County's out there right now trying to fix it again.
I know.
And we don't want that problem down the riverfront, so when we do fix it, hopefully we fix it correctly the first time.
Right, do it right. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, the alternative to do nothing is lose the trail and lose the parking lot. And
Well, eventually, yeah, you would lose part of that roadway basically that gets up. I don't know that it would get that far over to the trail immediately, but but that would be a future concern. So, we could definitely go ahead and do that. I think what we'd be looking for is some direction. If the council is willing, we can, see what we'll keep track of the river stages. I don't think that we've ever historically had it low enough this time of year going forward that, you could get down there. You're not gonna get down there until next winter.
January or
Did
February.
you
But-
say March?
Huh?
Did you say
His
March?
permit with the Corps is good till March of 2026. So you've got it during those winter months when you need it. And so, I guess we can keep an eye on it. If we see an opportunity that we would do in this budget year, we'll come to you then at that time, just remind you. We'll do a budget amendment by ordinance and then move forward with either location 1, location 1, 2, or location 1, 2, 3, whatever you all decide. And then, but I think what we will probably do is make sure that if we put it in the budget for next year, to go ahead and have that in there, and then you won't need a budget amendment if it happens after October, which I don't think you're gonna be able to get. I know that there's some concern with immediacy to dump rock, but I don't know that.
Best time's probably gonna be in the winter time, because
It
we all
is.
know what the level of the river is during the winter.
It's a little more predictable, and the guys can plan on it and get in there and do it, like you said, do it right.
I
so.
know that if, I'm not speaking here for Dwayne, but after discussions with him, he wants to see it tomorrow. But I don't know that that's necessarily for tomorrow, but like I said, I think let's talk about what we're really possibly gonna lose.
And Charles, just for your information, maybe Tony too, I suggest take a look at behind the apartment building on Highway 100 West.
Yeah.
That happened at Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving. We fixed that back in December, and it's not a really steep slope. You know what I mean? It's just something you know what you're gonna get when you get shot rock That's what it's gonna look like. That's what it's gonna bank side. You know, that, we're not thinking it's gonna sit there at a straight up and down angle.
Oh,
There's
no,
gonna be
yeah.
an angle into the river.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite as what we have out there, but it's something that's been done recently that you know what it's gonna look like.
Yep.
And you're not gonna go to the quarry and get 1 to 2 foot boulders. You're gonna get shot rock, and some's gonna be all you can handle, and some's all the way down to small, you know, and you're gonna place them, strategically place them, the biggest ones you can. Because you can't afford to buy 1 or 2 foot rocks, consistent rock. That's not gonna happen. So the shot rock is the way to go. The bigger the better on the bottom, and go from there. And that takes, it takes the right equipment. You're gonna have, so you're thinking about renting
Rent some big
rent a long arm,
excavators.
a long arm hoe in order to get down there and to place things too, because it's.
One at the bottom, one at the top.
Gotcha, okay. Yep.
And Parks does have a project after that to go in potentially and plant some more trees, kind of help with the top stabilization
Yeah, I think he's
as
been,
well.
yeah, they've been looking at the idea of several trees to go ahead and help with the stabilization of the bank for the future.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Charles.
Charles, before you go away, can you update me on the the electric lines on Front Street?
I could give you, where we're at is, I think we are working with one last property owner to obtain an easement. We have met, I think, most of the concerns or needs, but I don't know that we've received anything back from them since Mark Piantek has sent them correspondence saying, we'll meet what you want. So we're waiting for that. But after that, that's the last holdout that we would have, and then we can move forward.
And we have to get all the TC agreements finalized, then Ameren has to go in and finalize the plans, then we can go in
And this is all gonna happen at one time?
We'd like to do it, make sure, put all the stuff in place before Front Street gets tore up in
we can go as early as next year, 26, but we can push that project, so we'll probably end up pushing the Front Street project.
So we're gonna be resurfacing Front Street, is what you're telling me?
Yes,
After the
eventually,
burial.
yes.
After the burial.
Has anybody talked about put some retention under the street to help the lids from popping off during the big storm?
We've talked about, yes, we have talked about that. As a matter of fact, we're going to be meeting with Cochran to talk about what else we can do. It's one of the 2 or 3 areas that Charles has got on his list of what we can do to enforce that.
I mean, I've been in construction a long time, and I would recommend putting like a drain field in there, back and forth under the street, maybe 3 foot, if we can afford it, down with 3 foot and back with 3 foot, and let the water go through the pipes instead of popping up out of the manhole covers, and do a retention under the street, and then let it run out slowly. I mean, I don't know what you have in mind.
No, I mean, I think like I said, we're gonna meet with Cochran, go over some different options, maybe some general cost estimates of options we could do here and other areas we're experiencing those issues
Well,
during
I'm
the.
talking about retention. I mean, we all know how high the water got when the last big rain was at the park, especially at Teeman and
Yep.
West Main. How we had 2 foot of water on the street. Do we own the property at Teeman and West Main, looking at the southwest corner? That area there's like 12 trees in there, and we don't cut that grass anymore? Is there a-
That's, yeah, if you're talking about that's city-owned.
Yep.
Okay, I know we were out there and digging with excavators out there trying to get the water to go where you think you want it to go. But if we could go in there and take those 12 trees out, dig all that dirt out of there and make a retention pond where the water would stay in that grassy area instead of on the street, it'd be safe for all the people going through there to work and getting out of work. It's just something to look at.
Yeah, we can look at that.
You could take out at least 4 foot of dirt, stock the dirt somewhere where, if we ever need dirt, we got it. And we got our own personal retention pond to hold the water back when we have high waters.
Well, it kind of almost used to be naturally that way, right?
Well,
Wasn't
what
it?
if
It
they
used to
dug
be
it
kind of
out?
like a puddle there for a long time, but we filled it in with that berm, and then
Well, they got that. And the only thing you'd have to leave there would be that big utility pole that's right there. But if you just take it all the way back to the bank, 4 foot deep, level with the bottom of the creek, it'll all fill in back in there, and it'll stay there, and eventually will go out to underneath the road. And it won't be 2 foot high on the street.
You're talking about the south side of
Southwest corner.
Side of Main there,
Yeah, it might not save
where the berm
every
is.
event, but
Oh, you're on the other side of West Main from the
Little
berm.
triangle
Yeah.
there that
You come up to the stop sign, it's to your right across the street
Yeah,
there.
you just dug all that out going down Main, all that would run right into that then.
Yeah, they dug out the creek part of it, but I'm talking about. taking
Is there
the
any,
whole lot.
were any of those trees put in for mitigation
That's what I was
purposes?
just thinking.
That's,
That was
that's the
all
only
part
thing
of
I could
that
think of, Steve, that we
Walmart
have to
deal.
take a
About
look
that
at
too,
that.
But I don't know about Mark, if he knows or not, if it's an emergency deal, if we could get away with taking some trees out, you can't?
Not if it was part of that mitigation, you can't.
Let's
You
wait
have
and
to
see if
replace
that's the
them
case.
somewhere else.
Okay.
Let's see if that's the case first.
Well, you just said you could replace them.
Right, you would have to.
But you gotta get their,
somewhere else.
you gotta get their approval.
Right.
Doesn't
I
matter.
mean, it's a possibility.
It's a
You take 'em
possibility.
out.
yeah, right. Just
Yeah.
more questions to ask, but
Right.
we could.
It's just not an automatic no.
Questions.
It's more a safety issue to me than it is anything, because the last one we had, there was a lot of water down there, and it was about 2 foot deep. And if we can think of a way to take care of it, that'd be great.
We'll look into it. Yep. Anything else for me?
Nope.
We do have one item from executive session we could discuss between now and the next council meeting at 7.
Executive session, public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, or real estate matters pursuant to section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Fair?
yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Heckey?
Yes.
Pepsel?
Yes?
Solentrop?
Yes. We have so many other people in town that have to have.
Plant them trees on Miller Post.
Driving by the pool house, I seen it boarded up. Is that to keep it homeless?
Trees and move them up to Miller Post.
No, we haven't had,